Hello class, so this is essay number 2. You've made it through essay number 1 and now you're ready to start number 2. So number 2 is worth slightly more. It's 20% of your overall grade, which is a good chunk. So remember, the essays are important in this class. We don't want to do poorly. We want to make sure that we put a lot of revision, pre-writing, and get the help we need if we need it, okay? So the virtual Real Center, and the ILC are available for you. I also want to mention that this video is just an overview of the prompt. The prompt is the important thing. You should follow the prompt. So, semester by semester, I might tweak or change things slightly. If I do that, it's going to be on the prompt. So again, make sure you print that, save that, read that, ask me questions from that, but the prompt will be on Blackboard and it's a Word document. The purpose of this assignment is to understand that the comparison and contrast rhetorical strategy is an everyday practice which develops critical thinking skills. Once we fully understand the comparison and contrast rhetorical strategy, we can adequately analyze two essays at the same time, focusing on thematic, structural, and stylistic elements. This exercise improves our critical thinking skills, composition skills, and communication skills by forcing us to develop and discuss complex concepts. So you'll notice that we are focusing on thematic, structural, and stylistic elements. Sometimes students want to just focus on thematic, what happens in the story, the themes, but you have to also delve into the structural and stylistic elements, such as how the author writes. We're going to talk more about that later on. So how do you choose your texts? There is a list on the prompt for your text choices. I change them every semester, so I will not say them here, but when you open up the Word document in the Blackboard template, you will see text choices. You can choose 2 out of the following choices. You're going to read and analyze the texts. I know it's hard to kind of stop yourself from just choosing the shortest text, but remember you have to fill up an entire paper, and it's a 4-page paper, so you want to give yourself a lot to talk about. So you want to choose texts that you see connections, because you can't contrast even without first comparing. So they have to have something in common so you can find differences. So that's something that's important. As you read, you should be underlining important lines, sentences. If you see a thesis statement, if you feel like it was a strong sentence, a quote you might use in your essay later on, you might want to underline that or highlight it. So simply put, your assignment is to take 2 readings and find differences and similarities within those readings. Sounds simple, but of course it's not. It's going to have to be reasons and differences and similarities that are not obvious. You really have to delve into the readings. There are going to be some obvious ideas in the very beginning. You got to kind of look past that, brainstorm more, try to find enough that you can fill an entire body paragraph with. So that's the assignment, just simply put. So once you choose your 2 texts and you've analyzed them, you've highlighted them, you feel comfortable, how do you pick your points? Well, this is probably the hard part, other than the organization of this essay. You want to pick first points that are different. They shouldn't be saying the same thing, because then your whole essay is going to just be repeating itself, just in different ways. So you don't want to do that, right? You want to set yourself up for success. So brainstorm. A lot of people want to skip this part because it's not something that you actually turn in. It's not something that I can grade, right? So don't skip it. Brainstorm, take some time with it, because if you have good points, it's going to be easier to write this essay later. The next thing is use a Venn diagram to get your ideas out and start to organize them. There is a Venn diagram template on Blackboard for you under the supplemental essay information. It is optional. I am not going to take it up, but it's there for you if you want to use it. Think outside the box. So at first, there's going to be comparisons and contrasting ideas that just jump out at you that are very obvious, right? for instance, if both of the authors are female. I mean, that's very obvious. That is not going to take you very far with your body paragraphs. So you want to go beyond that. That's why brainstorming is important. And then pick points that you can elaborate on. Again, this is a 4-page paper, right? You're going to use quotes in this paper, but you want to say more than just the obvious. Then it's going to make your content in your essay strong, and you won't have a problem meeting that 4-page length. I always have students at the end go, I can't make that 4-page length, and it's usually because they didn't pick strong points. And then also you can think about, the highlighted text that you have. You maybe underline some good quotes, some good evidence, and see what you have evidence for. So that might help you go back to your notes and say, okay, what is this line proving? Or what is this line saying? What's the symbolism in this? So use your notes. So these are the goals. These might be tweaked a little bit. So again, go by what's on your prompt. But most of it is going to be 4 pages. You're going to follow MLA guidelines. And actually, I think we're using the 9th edition of MLA guidelines now. That says the 8th. A works cited page does not count towards that 4-page minimum. You're going to compare and contrast. So you're going to do both of those things in your essay, not just one. So like maybe the first paragraph, the body paragraph, might be contrasting 2 points. And then the second body paragraph might be comparing. And then you choose, what the third one is going to do. And maybe possibly the fourth. So use that MLA formatting. By this point in the semester, hopefully that's perfect, because you don't want to lose points on that. That's an easy thing to fix, and the Real Center or the Real Center or even the ILC can help you with that very easily. Times New Roman, 12-point, double space, 1-inch margin, all that good stuff. Of course, grammar is important. Organization is important. Transitions, use all that. You're going to use point-by-point organization. We're going to talk more about that. And you're going to use present tense and third-person point of view, where you're not writing anything personal. You're not giving me your opinion, no personal anecdotes, no stories about your life or something that you have witnessed. This is an academic essay. So those things are not going to be put in here. You're not going to use the word I, me, we. Those are first person. You're going to use third-person words. So make sure to look those up if you're not familiar. You're going to say things like the reader will understand the author, the protagonist, they. Those are the types of third-person words. Okay, and then of course you're going to incorporate textual evidence from the essays under analysis, and you'll see this is a little cut off, but there's more to it on your prompt, so make sure to check that out. So this is point-by-point method or organization. And these are referring to the body paragraphs, not the introduction and not the conclusion. So when you are using point by point in one body paragraph, you will make your main point, right? You're going to use that meal, main point, topic sentence. You'll make it very clear. The first topic sentence should refer to both texts in some way and refer to the point that that paragraph is going to be making in the first sentence. Then you will move on to just text number 1. So whatever text number 1 is, it's always going to be first every single time, right? It was mentioned first in your thesis, it will be mentioned first in the body paragraphs, and it will be mentioned first in the conclusion. You're going to keep that order throughout. So you're pretty much going to discuss how text number 1 proves your topic sentence, whatever that point number 1 is, and then you'll transition. Well, in that you'll of course include your ideas, but also quotes, right? Then you'll transition to text number 2 and do the same. Text number 2, add some quotes, add your analysis, explain why text number 2 proves the topic sentence, whatever your point number 1 is. And you'll move on. Then you'll go to the body paragraph number 2. So it's basically discussing one text at a time. And then, of course, in meal, MEAL, the L part is the link, and that's the last part, and that's when you can kind of slightly combine the two essays if you need to. So you'll do that throughout. So the hook in the thesis, of course, is talking about the introduction, the first paragraph. So you're going to start off with the hook, right? So the hook should be interesting and relate to two texts. Now, when I say relate to two texts, that doesn't mean it has to be totally about the text. Now, it can, so for instance, if you're reading essays about family, you can discuss a famous family. You know, like for instance, it can be somebody, you know, a family like the Kennedys, or you know, it can be like the TV show Modern Family. Something that's going to catch people's attention and still be relevant to your essay, right? So, say your two texts that you're choosing have a link with family. You can start off with that. It's more than one sentence. It's 3 to 4. It depends on how long your introduction is. It's not a page long, because sometimes people go a little overboard with that. So, 3, 4, 5 sentences. And then you'll transition. And that's important because sometimes people just want to jump to that thesis. You have to transition. So basically explain how that hook relates to the thesis in a sentence. That should be enough, but if you need 2 sentences, that's okay too. And then that thesis has to be the last sentence. And it should be 1 sentence. And you'll see it's cut off here, but again, you should have your prompt in front of you. It has a thesis format example. And this is an example. That does not mean you have to follow this perfectly, but the thesis should have the author's names, it should have both titles, and it should have 3 to 4 points. It's also important that you make it clear which points are going to be comparing and which points are going to be contrasting. That should be clear in the thesis. I shouldn't have to read further into the essay to figure that out. So that's important. That's something that people forget a lot. So you'll see in this example here, while both keyword narrators in, author number 1, text number 1, and author number 2 and text number 2 are blank, that means whatever point number 1 is, it's going to be a comparing point, right? Comma, they differ in blank and blank. So that means point 2 and point 3 are going to be contrasting points, okay? You're not going to be mixing within the paragraph. So you're not going to do both comparing and contrasting in one body paragraph. You're either going to do one or the other, okay? And then if you see on your prompt, it explains how the body paragraphs would be set up as well. So meal, we've used meal in essay 1. However, it's a little bit different in essay number 2 because it's more involved. And why is it more involved? Well, because you are using research this time. You're using quotes. So yes, you're still going to use that M, that main idea, that topic sentence. It's still going to be logically ordered and effective. But that E is going to no longer be examples. It's going to be quotes from the text. The quotes from the text have to have introductions. Okay, so basically who said it or where you got it from, and then it's also very important that you have an in-text citation or a parenthetical citation at the end, which is mainly the author's last name and page number of the text where you took this quote from. And that's important because that is the citation part of it. That is the part that helps you tell the reader where you got this information from, and also explain that it's not your words. So that's the plagiarism part you want to check. If you cite it, it's great. Each quote requires an introduction and an in-text citation. Remember, your words should outweigh those of the quotations used in your subject matter. So I've had students in the past have 70% of the paragraph be just a huge quote, and then them explain the quote for about a sentence or 2, and that's just not going to cut it, because remember, it's more important for you to analyze the quote. I can read the text, the initial text. I need to know what you think about the initial text. So don't do that. Make sure that your words outweigh the quotations. And Safe Assign will scan it at the end, and it will give you a percentage of how many quotes you used or how many citations you used. So it shouldn't be more than half. It should be a lot less than half, actually. So that's something just to think about. Of course, with me, I used to use that transitions. After every example, there should be analysis, or excuse me, after every evidence, which is going to be the quotes, should be analysis. If you have a a sentence, you have two. If you have a quote that's more than two sentences, then the analysis should be more than two sentences. Then just don't pad your paper with block quotes. So that's what I'm saying. So the link at the end, again, is just sort of a sum up. You can explain how both texts either compare or contrast in that sentence, and that should just be one sentence. The conclusion is pretty straightforward, and it's similar to our essay number 1. So you want to ensure that you close with a reason for comparing and contrasting, or you can return to the hook. So offer something new. Sometimes I have students just kind of regurgitate what they've already said in the essay. You don't want to repeat. There's no. It's not necessary to do that, right? Because I just read your essay, so I don't need to have like a sum up so soon. Instead, the conclusion gives a reason, offers an idea for a solution or something that might happen in the future. So what can the reader draw from this compare and contrast essay? What is the point you're asserting? What can we gather from all the information you've given? Conclude something. Do not simply just repeat. Okay, and that's going to make your essay sort of end with a bang a little bit better. Again, you have a works cited page. It's a separate sheet at the end of your essay. So if you have 4 pages, it'll be the 5th page. It's an ABC order. For this essay, you'll most likely only have 2 citations for the 2 texts that you choose. This says articles, but it's 2 texts. Just kind of a tip here is after you refer to the authors in the thesis, you just need to use their last names after that, okay? Because once you sort of introduce the author, we just need the last name, and that kind of cuts back on, it helps you with concision. So, yeah, and again, you will not include any personal information or opinions in this essay, third person point of view, and please ask me if you have any questions at all after reading the prompt. And I'm here for you. Okay, good luck.